This is your place for all things Detroit Red Wings and all things Chicago Blackhawks. With your hosts, Jordan Linscott, David Barnhouse, Nick LePage, and Tim Stompanato. This is the Stick Blade Podcast. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Stick Blade Podcast. It's normally your place for all things Detroit Red Wings and Chicago Blackhawks, but Tim and Nick are not here tonight, so it's going to be just Oops All Red Wings. So we cover everything regarding both teams, usually in regards to trades, player acquisitions, injuries, stuff like that, all sorts of major news with the club. I'm your host for tonight, Jordan Linscott, and I'm joined by my co-host, David Barnhouse. Everybody, it's going to be an all-wing show tonight.
It's terrible news what happened to Nick and Tim tonight, you know. Both of them, like, what are the chances? Go to open their mailboxes, and what do you know? Blood, just basset hound sized skunks just sitting right in the mailbox, just sprayed them right in the face. Tomato juice baths all day. Like, it's terrible news.
I'm pretty sure you could like smell the skunk through the screen. Like, it was that bad.
Yeah, when they texted me, they were just sent me a picture of a bunch of Campbell's tomato soups, and I thought it was an Andy Warhol painting about to happen, but nope, skunk bath.
But in all seriousness, this is your place for all things Red Wings and all things Chicago Blackhawks normally, but it's an all Red Wings show tonight because, like I said, Tim and Nick aren't here, so you're getting me and David tonight. But guys, the Wings actually have some big news to talk about. The first being that the Red Wings waived Jakub Vrana, a move that I think nobody saw coming except for the guy making the decision, Steve Yzerman. Tyler Bertuzzi is slated to come back within the next week. Zadina is expected to come back within the next, I think, 2 weeks. Robbie Fabbri made his NHL return this week, and spoiler alert, looked really good. Elmer Soderblom got sent to the AHL in that same week, and then also Derek Lalonde separated Moritz Seider and Ben Sherratt, and Moritz Seider has looked so much better. Also, we've got to talk about it. Dylan Larkin had this interview this week where he was talking to who was it? Was it Paul Bissonnette? I think was the one who asked him, or am I thinking of somebody else?
I forget which one it was.
But anyway, Dylan Larkin got asked about his contract with the Detroit Red Wings, moving forward. We're going to talk about that a little bit because that has been something that people have been talking about, with the fact that the season, there's not really a ton of time left, and we still don't know for sure, like, what his next contract's going to look like. And I kind of just want to talk about that for a second, because even though Dylan Larkin is not, a Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon level player, he's absolutely a player who this team is going to need for a rebuild, or to leave their rebuild and get back to the Stanley Cup playoffs and have like deep playoff runs again. So I do want to talk about just what we need to be looking at for his upcoming contract this offseason. And just also, again, what his response kind of means. And then also, I do want to talk about the Red Wings special teams because they have not been good as of late, and they've been costing the Wings games. We're going to talk about that in the flashback segment of this portion of the podcast because, again, they started out fine. They actually started out really good this season. As of late, they have been slipping, and it's apparent that the special teams at this point are actually costing them games at this point. It's not just they were bad one game. It's been a continually like noticeable thing that you can look at and say the power play is not clicking. The penalty kill keeps giving up goals, and those little things that keep happening are costing the Wings meaningful games right now.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So there's a lot to talk about with the Wings this week. Let's start on just I want to say like a really great note. Robbie Fabbri came back to the NHL for the Detroit Red Wings this week, and for anyone who didn't know, he was off. He tore his ACL. I think it was almost a year ago at this point.
March, I believe.
So almost a year ago.
Almost, yeah.
He's playing back with the Red Wings, and man, he looked actually really solid his first game back.
Can we just say he looked fabulous?
I mean, he had the one goal. What was it? Was it the empty netter that he had?
No, he had a real goal.
No, he didn't have the empty netter. He had the normal goal, but like aside from that, played very physical. Was not afraid to get
2 big hits.
Like Robbie Fabbri looked like he perfectly stepped right back into the NHL, even though he's been off for almost a year.
Mhm.
I think this is great. Like, it's a hard story not to root for, right? Like a guy who has had several injuries of the same kind, constantly derailing his career, and he comes back and he looks better than ever.
And they played like that hype, like emotional comeback rehab video, like the day of the game, where you were just like, man, I'm all in on Fabbri. Like he's worked his butt off to come back. He has, and he looked like he hasn't even missed a step. I didn't see any rust on him, and he he didn't have any like warm up rehab games with the Griffins, from what I remember, did he?
No, he didn't.
He
He
just,
literally came straight back.
God, he's like Superman. He just came right back. He absorbed the sun and just he's back.
It's interesting because like Robbie Fabry's a player who I think you kind of have to look at for secondary scoring with this team. You obviously want him to be able to make that transition to center. I think the Wings tried it and it didn't really go the way that they wanted. And sometimes it doesn't
Hmm.
happen. Sometimes a winger cannot make the transition to center. But as a winger, I think that he's a perfectly solid, you know, second line winger on this club. And he looked like it on that game that he came back.
Yeah, he looked like we said, look, like he hasn't missed a step. He was physical when you, and like when he delivered those hits, I kept getting like, ooh, don't hurt yourself, because like I've torn my ACL. It sucks. Like I'll be playing on the floor with my kiddo and I feel like still numb tingles in some parts of my knee that may never go away. But hey, he's done it twice now and he looks like he hasn't missed a step, which is just phenomenal. And I think he's a piece we want to keep around. Like it's crazy because we have so much, we are stacked on offense right now. And it's like, who moves? Who goes? And I don't know.
I mean, the coaching staff kind of answered it. Like Elmer Soderblom ended up getting sent to the AHL this week because
Which
Fabbri
is
came
fine.
back. And we were kind of talking about this before the show. Robbie Fabbri has speed, skill. He can play a physical game, and like he's been around the NHL longer. Whereas Elmer Soderblom, he has the physicality to play at the NHL level, but there's still stuff that he can learn at the AHL level, even though he's competent enough to play at the top level in the world, the NHL.
Mhm.
But him going to Grand Rapids is not the worst thing in the world for him. Like he's literally going to be able to step in there and be a productive player and continue to get high quality reps while he continues to develop skills like his skating, like some of his decision making. Like the size is already there for him. We see that. We actually saw the first game of the season when he was just keeping everybody off. At this point, I really think Soderblom going to the AHL isn't a demotion. It's more of this is a chance to hone skills
Yep.
that you're not going to get to hone at the NHL level.
Yep. Like we've seen his hands. We've seen he does have silky smooth hands when he can use them. I think, like you said earlier, he relies a lot on his size, which is not a bad thing. He's a big man, but if he can use his size and then harness the speed he has, work on his shooting ability some more, and work on his playmaking abilities, he will be a force to be reckoned with.
Like that's the other thing is like I mean, we're talking about Grand Rapids, so I kind of feel like we have to like just keep talking about the players who the Wings have who are playing for Grand Rapids. I mean, Alex Nedeljkovic is playing down there. He's looked a lot better since he made the transition from the NHL to the AHL. And
Yep.
goalies are weird, right? Sometimes you can get in that mental funk because a goalie, you make one or two mistakes, those goals go in the back of your net, and that completely changes how you're feeling the next day.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to a level like the AHL if you're a pro and you're not facing as many of like the super dangerous shots that you will at the NHL level where every mistake that you make, you can absolutely get punished for that.
Yep.
And Jakub Vrana, like he's been playing at the Grand Rapids Griffins, and spoiler alert, we talked about this earlier. He got waived in order to stay with the Grand Rapids Griffins after a conditioning stint. I'm not going to sit here and speculate why he got waived because I think that's irresponsible. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes with him. I don't think it's just I don't think it's a good look to make up rumors about somebody who is going through something, which is obviously what
Hmm.
the player assistance program is for.
Yep.
I don't think it does anybody any good to speculate why he got waived, but he got waived. And for everyone who was freaking out, I think there were what, 3 teams in the entire NHL who actually could absorb his what, almost $6 million cap hit.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you why he got waived. And like I said, we don't know what's going on with him, and we hope he's doing better. He looks like he is from the pictures we've seen of him, in the back of the arena, kicking a soccer ball with teammates. But he played one game this season. He had a good stat that game, but he's been out ever since. And he's probably a little bit rusty from everything that's going on personally, mentally, physically, everything. And this was a way for us to let him continue to get himself back on track without having to put the pressure of playing in Detroit. And like you said, there was maybe 3 teams that could absorb that. And I think Eisman was banking on none of those 3 teams biting because of, him being out for so long, the mental rustness, the physical rustness, all that. And I think this is a good thing. When people were on Twitter freaking out, like, oh my God, they waived him. Wow, what a fail. Like journalists like Ryan Hanna and others, no offense to them, they were like, well, I'm so confused. And I I wasn't so confused. Like I figured this was why. And I'm not gonna say I was 100% confident, but I was fairly confident. I'm like, he's staying. Like, he's not leaving. Iserman knows what he's doing. Like when you when we say we trust the Iser plan, this is part of it. And hiccups happen, like Verana being out on the player wellness program, which is fine. Power to him for getting help and working on himself before the team, because your mental health, your family, all that stuff comes first. Sports are sports. Like I could go on a rant about guys like Skip Bayless and their DeMar Hamlin comments, but I'm not going to, because they're not worth it. Skip Bayless isn't worth any of that because he's trash. Um, but your health comes first. And I think Eisenman was, like I said, understanding and saying, we want to keep you. You need more development to get yourself back to where you could be. And I think the Griffins are going to be great for him to do that. He'll be back in the winged wheel sooner than we think.
And that's the thing, like I think a lot of people also aren't really realizing, like Jakub Vrana, I think he's only on that contract through, what is it, next year? Or is it the year after? But like either way, this is not some long-term, like 8-year, $8 million contract that just got signed last year. Like this is a very short-term contract that Jakub Vrana's on. And for people to be freaking out about this guy playing in Grand Rapids, it's from the get-go, they said this is a conditioning stint to get him back used to playing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a conditioning stint. They didn't say that this is going to be a long-term plan where it's, they've got a player who they signed a contract to, has not produced at the NHL level at all. This is a player who has had basically a ton of rust from being out. What was he, almost out 3 months before he finally got to come back and play? And that doesn't even include the break over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've got a player who hasn't played for realistically almost 6 months, just got back. There's going to be an adjustment period there. I don't know about you, David, but I don't take 6 months off from the gym, walk in, and expect to be hitting my PRs already. Like it doesn't happen.
No. Yeah, he's got this year and next year. He's a UFA in 24-25.
Like I don't get why people are freaking out about this either. And like Steve
Like,
Eiserman, I gotta say this, he's probably got like some of the like he's got to have like the biggest balls for waiving a almost $6 million player. Like
he
the
does.
amount of just the amount of fortitude he had to have to do that and just be like, yeah, I bet no one's grabbing him.
No one's gonna bite because they're scared of Steve Eiserman. He'll call them up. What do you think you're doing? Cancel it now. And like, I think we have less to be worried about. Whereas you look over at the guys who traded us for Anna, the Capitals, just healthy scratched Mantha.
Yeah, like he got sent to, what is it, the fourth line down there. And I didn't read that he got scratched, but if he did get scratched, again, what are people freaking out about? Like, you've got two players who got traded for each other, nearly identical cap hits, and
Mm-hmm.
neither one of them is playing in the NHL right now. Or if they are playing, it's a very limited role.
Yeah, they healthy scratched him. I'm looking at it on Reddit right now.
It blows my mind that people were freaking out over this. Like, I wasn't happy that, like, I'll admit, I was not happy that Jakub Vrana got waived because there
Oh, of
was a
course
slight
not.
chance that one of those three teams would have grabbed him. But it was not like, it wasn't like Jakub Vrana was making $1 million a year for the next 4 years. And Steve Yzerman said, who?
Yeah, I wasn't happy in the sense that I'm like, oh, I hope like Verona doesn't get like down about this. But I'm sure like he had a conversation with Eisman, with Lalonde, and seeing the picture of him, kicking the soccer ball with Ned, I think he's I think he's good. I hope. Like you can never tell someone's, mental health just by them smiling, but I hope he's all right. And I think Grand Rapids, like I've been to Griffins games. Our fans are fun there. I mean, the Griffins jerseys are pretty sick too. Um, so I'm sure he's going to have a good time, rocking it at some AHL netminders and getting that confidence up, getting that skill level back up. And he'll be back on the top, 6 pairing before we know it.
I mean, we're talking about players who haven't been playing with the club. Let's move to players that are actually looking to be joining the club again within, the foreseeable 2 weeks or so. Tyler Bertuzzi and Philip Zadina are both slated to be playing back with the Red Wings within the next 2 weeks. Bertuzzi is already practicing again on the top line, and again, there's the weird hand injuries kind of set him back a little bit, but he's
Yep.
stepping right back into the top line. If that's the kind of like the confidence,
Bertuzzi's Bertuzzi's in the lineup tomorrow, according to Coach Lalonde.
like that's awesome. If Bertuzzi really does step right back into this lineup as a top line player, I feel like we kind of have to have like a real question, David. Like, will Steve Yzerman be comfortable trading him this, potential trade deadline and just giving him a chance to go potentially have success somewhere else and not come back? Or do you think Yzerman holds on to him and just says, all right, we're going to lock you in before the deadline. That way, you have a place here.
God, I don't know. Like, it's the complete opposite for me. Like, I'm confident Dylan Larkin isn't going anywhere. Like, 100%. Like the spit and chicklets thing that we're going to talk about, where they're like asking that question, and of course he's not going to be like, "Oh, we got this." I'm like, you're not talking about your contracts like that. That's a private conversation between you and management. But like, Bertuzzi's the one that just. I'm like Benoit Blanc over here. Like, I don't know, but it compels me. Like, does he want to stay? He's going to be a free agent. How much is he going to cost, especially with his injuries? Like, that's a plus there. Like, you've been out a lot this year. Like, we can't pay you this much. But at the same time, he starts playing well right now, right before the deadline. There's teams that could use a player like Bertuzzi. What are they going to be willing to give up? And then that brings the question of what are we at the deadline? Are we buyers? Are we sellers? Are we somewhere in between? What is going on?
I It is. It's a really hard question to look at. And Bertuzzi's a productive player. We all know that. Like, we've seen time and time again how when Tyler Bertuzzi is on his game, he is cash money, just fantastic. But it's a hard question to answer because Detroit is really in a full on, like, we don't know yet 100% where we're at in this rebuild, because they're close. Like, they're able to hang with teams that are in the playoff contention. They're not able to beat them, but they're able to hang with those teams. And then they beat
Mhm.
just about every other team that they're expected to beat, minus the occasional meltdown game. But
Yep.
almost every team in the NHL has those games where they'll lose to a team they should not have lost to at all.
Yep.
And I think that is something that, like, they're going to have to really look at with Tyler Bertuzzi coming back. And that doesn't, again, even talk about, like, what's this team going to look like when Philip Zadina comes back either, because Zadina's expected to come back soon. I mean, I've been a really firm defender of Philip Zadina this entire time we've done this show, because I think that when you look at advanced analytics, he's better than the score sheet tells you. A
Mhm.
lot of people look at just strictly goals, assists, plus minus, and say he's not that great of a player. When you look at Corsi, it tells you a very different story for him. It really points more towards he's just been very unlucky.
The goalie's at the right place at the right time with him.
And that's the thing. Like, Derek Lalonde is not stupid. Steve Yzerman's not stupid. Is he fine letting somebody like Bertuzzi walk at free agency to another team if he really has, or sorry, get traded before free agency and potentially risk being happy somewhere else if he has that sort of faith in Philip Zadina, if he has that sort of faith in Jonathan Berggren? It's a
So
hard question to ask.
it is. So let me pose the question to you. What would you do?
I feel like you got to trade. Like, they've got to be like giving him like this time to showcase and get ready for a trade, right? Because like he's UFA at the end of this season,
Mhm.
and Detroit could be a playoff team, but they're not 100%. They're in it right now. And if I'm Steve Yzerman, I wouldn't be comfortable holding on to an asset like that I'm about to be able to lose for literally no return when the season
Mhm.
ends.
So my question to you is, hypothetically, Bertuzzi comes back and is playing like Bertuzzi.
Mhm.
What do you think we can get for Bertuzzi?
I mean, the discuss like if he looks like 30 goal scorer Tyler Bertuzzi, you're looking at a first round draft pick plus those play like a first round draft pick and probably a third or a fourth, and then maybe a middle prospect somewhere. Players like Tyler Bertuzzi do not grow on trees. Like gritty power forwards who can literally play all throughout your lineup, they don't grow on trees at all in the NHL.
It's just going to be hard to replace his ability, like his grittiness, especially. He's the kind of player that, will find that goal by any means. And we need a guy like that.
It's a hard situation to be in though, and like I don't envy Steve Yzerman for it at all.
I think Eisman's cool as a cucumber. He knows what he's doing. I think there's no stress. He's like, we trade him, we trade him. I got plans. He probably has like different folders on his desk. One folder's like keeping Bertuzzi, one folder's trading Bertuzzi, one folder's call up Kirby Doc and ask him about if he still smokes. Just for fun.
We can move on to another topic I want to talk about, because I mean, we were just talking about Dylan Larkin and his contract coming up this offseason, and we're going to talk about it before the offseason even starts again. But it was brought up this week on actual broadcast, so we have to talk about it at this point, right?
Yeah.
Dylan Larkin's not on contract for the next year with the Red Wings, and I liked his answer when they asked him, what's up with your contract? Like, you still don't have one for next year. Do you think you're going to be in Detroit? He said, well, I mean, I really hope to be. He said, I enjoy playing in the NHL. And Steve Yzerman would not appoint somebody to be the captain of a team when they're only planning to be there for 2 years. I really think that Steve Yzerman and Dylan Larkin have had extensive conversations about the
Mm-hmm.
direction this club's heading, what he thinks a very realistic timeline would look like, and
Mm-hmm.
what the contract that he'll be looking at will be potentially looking like. I mean, right now, Dylan Larkin looks like he's probably going to be projecting it on like a true fair market value contract. He'd probably be about a 9 million ish, maybe $9.5 million player. Just he's not Nathan McKinnon. He's not, Austin Matthews level player, but he is that tier right underneath those guys who are great elite level players, just not bona fide superstars.
Yep. Let me look. So I'm on cap friendly right now. So he's currently making about 6. He's the highest paid player in our team.
Mm-hmm.
The next guy under him is Andrew Kopp at 5.6. If I go to a team like Toronto, and Austin Matthews is at 11.6. Yes, if we are to rank them, Austin Matthews would be an S tier player. I think Dylan Larkin would be an A tier player. I could see him making between 8.5 and 9 just because I think he doesn't want to go higher because that could hurt the team. And Dylan Larkin is the captain of the Detroit Red Wings, his hometown club. He wants to win a cup for this club. He has what's considered probably the greatest captain in our history as his general manager, Steve Yzerman, a guy he probably idolized as a kid. He and Yzerman are going to work out the best possible deal to build this team to be a future cup contender. He's going to get paid, but he's not going to be getting paid your Matthews type money, your McDavid type money. He's going to be getting paid superstar captain Dylan Larkin money.
And like this thing is like if it comes out, in the next couple of weeks, Dylan Larkin's going to re-up for like $9 million a year for the next 8 years. I think that's a perfectly fair contract given the track record you've got with him, because it's not he had a hot year and you're banking on just that 1 year of production. It's throughout his entire career, except for I think there was 1 year he only had like 50 points. Dylan Larkin's been right around that 80-point mark level. Like those guys, at least in today's NHL, that fair market is about $9 million for those players.
Yep.
And again, you look around the league, a lot of the contenders and the big players who are playing on those clubs who've had real continued success, a lot of those players are on semi-team friendly deals. Like it's not all your superstars on like the cup contenders are making high-end money. I mean, it's very rare that you see a team like the Toronto Maple Leafs where you see multiple guys making $10 million or more a year.
Yep. Just looking at cap friendly and seeing who's up there. So like Alexander Barkov from Florida is making $10 million a year. They're around the same age, play the same position. What's another team that has? Let's go to the Rangers.
Logan Couture is a good comparable to him, actually, from the San Jose Sharks, I think.
Couture is like 8 years older, but yeah, they're comparable.
But I mean,
players.
in terms of like point totals and stuff like that, you're going to expect every year.
San Jose? San Jose. I just saw you. There you are. Couture is making $8 million a year.
And like, I think somewhere between $8 and $9 million for Dylan Larkin is a perfectly fair ask.
I would say he's going to be making, in my opinion, $8.75 million a year. Is my guesstimate.
And the thing is like, even if he does get that, like, fans can't be mad at a player wanting to make fair market value. At the end of the day, they can't be mad at a player wanting to make fair market value because of the fact that you're dedicating yourself to a team. You're not playing the free agent market. You're willing to stick it out with the club that drafted you and give them sort of like hey, I'm going to give you a little leeway. And 8 years to get to a cup contention spot is quite a long time in the NHL. You're talking potentially another full-blown rebuild in 8 years, which I don't think that Detroit Red Wings are going to do, but that's how long a full-blown rebuild will last. We're kind of talking about, like what the Wings are looking at point-wise. I mean, it's kind of one of those things we need to bring up the standings if we're talking about, contracts like that in the future, where this team's going to be looking at, because we were just talking about, what does this team look like in several years, probably under Steve Yzerman's plan. They're slipping through the standings right now, and I think
they have had a bit of a drop. Correct.
I think the Red Wings really need to take a look at their special teams during these next couple of weeks. I get that this last 3 or 4 games, they've played basically all teams that you expect to make the Stanley Cup playoffs. You've got the Toronto Maple Leafs, a team that by all measure, just purely based on offense, looks like they're going to be there. You've got a team in the New Jersey Devils who really went on a heater this year. You've got the Florida Panthers.
They were the game we beat them in earlier this year. They were chanting to fire their coach, and that was the game right after that. They went on that like win streak.
Like they played the Florida Panthers this week, a team who again is not like they're not as strong as they've been in years past, but they're still very much a capable club, like a team that can win any given game.
Yep.
Before that, like I'm looking at their schedule. You've got the Washington Capitals, a team who they've still got Alex Ovechkin, they've still got Evgeny Kuznetsov, they've got Dmitry Orlov.
And
That's
Backstrom is healthy again.
the team is it's still the core of the Capitals.
Hmm.
It just this team it's weird because like 5-on-5, I feel like the Wings and at least for the most part have looked really good at 5-on-5 hockey this past, I would say honestly month. They just can't seem to convert very highly on at 5-on-5, which is fine as long as your special teams can make up for it. The problem is the Wings special teams have not been good.
Nope.
The power play is super predictable, and the penalty kill has looked just awful.
They got to figure something out because it's just not been clicking lately. We got to change things up, spice things up a bit. I think maybe with Bertuzzi coming back and Fabbri back now, I think we can start changing things up and get things better. I hope.
I mean, my thing is this is we're obviously going to get Fabbri back. We're going to have Bertuzzi back soon. Zadina coming back, potentially 2 weeks from now. That is going to change the tools that they have to work with on their power play. So I get it. You're probably not going to see guys like Rasmussen or Veleno playing those spots they've been playing in the power play. They're probably going to give them back to those players because just generally speaking, track record, Fabbri is a power play guy who's produced a lot on the power play.
Mhm.
Zadina is a great puck facilitator. I mean, you look at the advanced analytics, and I just said this a second ago, but when you take goals and assists off the score sheet and look at actually meaningful like offense he's producing some of the most probably some of the best offense on this team. He's a consistent top three Corsi player on this team. You have to imagine they're putting him on one of the power play units. Do you think that the power play gets that much better when these guys come back?
Only if they really focus on it. Like they have to know their power play stats aren't good. And they have to take a long look and be like, okay, what are we doing wrong? What's missing? And it could be something on the lines of, okay, maybe we just need to spice it up. We got to get different people on those lines. And now that we have people coming back healthy, we practice them on those lines, change things up, and see if that helps. If that fails, change the strategy. What kind of strategy can we have? Can we do like umbrella pattern shapes, things like that? Just we got to figure something out.
I, I mean, my opinion is like I honestly think the Wings need to be trying to go for the gritty goals more. That's really what I think they should be doing. You've got big guys like Michael Rasmussen who can play net front. Before he went to the AHL, you had Soderblom who could play like a net front presence because he's just so big, nobody can shove him off. I
Yep.
really think that that's an element that the Wings should be looking to potentially get more out of it. If you can
Yeah.
screen the goalie more often, you're going to get more chances that the goalie's going to potentially miss your shots coming in.
Hmm. I mean, look back at the Wings of the old, like, our cup runs, all those playoffs. What was one of our best strategies, like, especially with the power play? Putting big body Thomas Holmstrom or Johan Franzen in front of the net. Bertuzzi's good at doing that. He's not a big body, but he's good at doing that and getting in the goalie's way. We got to work on that too.
But like the Wings have like I do feel like when this Wings lineup is fully healthy, I really want to see what the power play looks like. If it doesn't improve for some reason at that point, I think that's a sign that the NHL has or the rest of the NHL has figured out what the Wings are doing on their power play. They're going to have to make some major changes somewhere. That still doesn't answer the question of what they're doing with the penalty kill, unfortunately, because well, it's not been good recently at all. I mean, it was weird because like they started this year one of the best penalty kills in the league, and now it seems like they're just constantly giving up these goals. Like no nobody can really look at that penalty kill in my opinion and say, I like what I'm seeing. I mean, Ville Husso has been really good this season. Even he, though, cannot be asked to constantly bail out a penalty kill that is giving quality chances away.
Yep.
No
He's
goalie can.
got to study the tape on both ends. What are the top teams doing on their power play that is netting them power play goals? How do they run their power play? We got to evolve. We got to change. Penalty kill, power play, both.
We can move on to the flashback segment if you are comfortable with it, David.
Yeah.
So during this segment of the show, we talk about the week that was for the NHL clubs that we cover. Since it's a Wings only show, we're going to be talking about the Wings, obviously. So the Wings, they had, what was it, 3 games this week? Yes, 3 games. They played they played against the New Jersey Devils on Wednesday. They played against the Panthers on Friday, and then they played against the Maple Leafs on Saturday. All 3 games were losses, and we were just talking about this, but I honestly feel like special teams cost us these games. The
Yep.
Panthers game, I actually thought that Detroit was the better team overall, and the only reason they lost is because Sergei Bobrovsky played like a $10 million goalie.
God, he has them every so often,
The
Finds
Toronto
ways to hurt us.
the Toronto game, I really liked what Detroit showed the first period. Like, it literally looked like the Detroit Red Wings versus whoever they found in the stands. And then it just seemed like they took the gas off it, or the foot off the gas that game, and everything started to fall apart.
Yep.
The Devils game was the same way. They just kept giving up like these weird chances, and they never bounced back. I don't know. Like, I was kind of disappointed by this week. Just
It was. We knew it was going to be a hard week, but there was just some type of. I don't think they were unmotivated. I just think we got outplayed, and we got into our old ways of kind of shutting down and not being able to do anything against these teams. Hopefully, this little break they've had has been able to help them kind of work, because we're playing Winnipeg tomorrow, and Winnipeg isn't the best. They're a team we could beat. I mean, they're 26-13, so they have had a good season, but I feel like they're a beatable team.
I mean, and like that's things like, I mean, I guess we'll kind of talk about this as well, like the week coming up. I mean, looking at the Wings schedule for this upcoming week, they're gonna play Winnipeg tomorrow. They're gonna play the Maple Leafs on Thursday, and then they're gonna play the Blue Jackets on Saturday.
We got to beat the Blue Jackets out of all those teams.
The Blue Jackets better be a W. If it's not, I really question what's going to be happening in Detroit. Like, something's going to have to change if they go on like a 6 or 7 game losing streak, and if they look good at 5-on-5 and they just barely lose some of these games, okay, fine, I get it. Sometimes puck luck just is not your thing, but if they have, or if they keep having these 5-1, 6-1 games against these teams that they should be able to at least maybe not beat but hang with, I think that's got to start raising some red flags for what's going on with this team. Just like I said, the structure with like the power play, the penalty kill, and just sort of what they're doing at 5-on-5 that's not generating the chances that you need to get goals. Because I think overall, the Wings have actually been decent this year at 5-on-5. The special teams recently have just been what's costing them. I mean, like, just looking at the schedule, though, I do think the Jets are beatable. Even if they don't beat the Maple Leafs on Thursday, I want to see them not lose 4-1.
Yeah,
And
make
then,
it competitive this time.
yes, make it competitive this time. Like, even if they lose 4-3, okay, fine. At least you only lost by 1. And as long as the even strength looks good and the power play or penalty kill looks better.
Hell, I'll take a 4-2 game with an empty netter.
Like, the Blue Jackets, that better be a W in that column. If it's not, I don't know what to tell you.
It's going to be
Because the
hard.
Jackets are not good.
No. They are not.
I mean, I don't know if technically it counts this next week, but they're going to have a game versus the Avalanche on Monday at, like, weirdly enough, 3:00 in the afternoon.
Oh, God. Why?
I don't know why the NHL would put a game on at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, especially an old school rivalry game like Detroit and Colorado. But
That's
okay,
I don't like that.
like gee, so what's Colorado? 3 hours behind Detroit. So it's like playing a noon game on a Monday. Why? You can sell that on a Sunday. You can't sell it on a Monday when everyone is at work or and everyone is at school.
Yeah, that's a little messed up. Like people are working, and then in Colorado, it's what 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock.
Yeah, it would be like noon or 1 o'clock in Colorado. Like literally everyone is at work or in school. Like if you catch a kid at that game, they skipped school.
You're gonna have principals and company bosses just watching the game, being like, "There he is. There's Billy. He's skipping."
But no, that is a weird game time to pick for a game on a Monday. Like I said, I get it on a Saturday or I get it on a Sunday, not during the middle of the week.
Oh, granted, hold on. No, Monday is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, so that's why.
Okay, okay, that does make more sense. I was
I'm
gonna
like,
say, who
I'm like,
plans a game at
I'm like, wait a
noon?
minute. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, wait, it's a 3-day weekend because Martin Luther King Day. So still, hockey. Okay.
All right, then never mind. Kids aren't cutting school to be there. But
I had to pause for a second. I'm like, wait, Monday. Oh, that's right. Good, we caught that.
yeah, like that's gonna be the week coming for the sport. Let's just talk the Colorado game. It's good. It that for Colorado's sake, that better be a L for Detroit. I don't know how Detroit beats the Colorado Avalanche with how stacked the Avs still are.
I mean, I'd be happy if we did.
Oh, I'd be thrilled if we beat the Colorado Avalanche, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
Yep.
But yeah, that looks like that's gonna be the week that's coming up. I don't have anything else on the docket for the show. If you do, David.
I do not.
All right. Then we'll go ahead and just close this out then. If you're still watching or listening to the show, we appreciate you guys giving us a check. Basically, this is a podcast. It's by fans for fans. There's no corporate sponsorship or anything like that. So you got all the raw takes, you got all the funny moments. No one has to be super professional on the show, despite how much some of us try. You really get just like fan discussion when it comes to both of these clubs. And we really appreciate everyone who tunes in and like checks the show out, because at the end of the day, we do this for you guys. We all enjoy watching hockey, but this is for you guys to really enjoy. So feel free to give us a like, follow, share, whatever the social media currency is of choice on the platform you found us on, because we're all over the place. We're on YouTube, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're on Facebook, Twitter. We're all over the social media spheres.
Google
Feel free to give us
circles,
Google circles. I remember they were
Google
trying to
Plus.
push that as the thing.
God, I had a circle with like 2 people in it. I think that we were the only people on it.
But yeah, we're all over the internet and the social media sphere. So feel free to give us a check out. And as always, for your host, Jordan Scott, and for my co-host, David Brownhouse, this has been another edition of the Stick Blade Podcast. We will check you guys all back here next time. And in the meantime, stay safe, take care of yourself, and we'll catch you later.
Watch out for skunks. Bye, friends.